What if the 1970s most explosive films never made the headlines? Tonight, we rip the tape off 15 buried reels, stories hotter than disco and sharper than a switchblade, forgotten by ticket buyers, worshipped by die-hard cinephiles. Dim the lights, cue the projector, and keep your pulse steady. These hidden gems are about to hijack your movie night. Welcome to 15 more hidden gems of the 70s. Cinema that will blow your mind. Let's start rolling. The Friends of Eddie Coyle, 1973. Imagine a life where every friend is a potential enemy, and every conversation might be your last. That's the chilling reality for Eddie Coyle, a washed-up gunrunner trying to survive one last winter in Boston's cold criminal underbelly. Played with weary brilliance by Robert Mitchum, Eddie's not a gangster with power. He's the middleman, the guy you call when you need something illegal and don't want to get your hands dirty. Eddie is tired. He's got a prison sentence hanging over his head and a crew that would sell him out for a lighter rap. This isn't the fast-paced crime cinema of car chases and loud gunfights. It's quiet, methodical, almost mundane. Director Peter Yates captures a world where betrayal isn't shocking, it's expected. The dialogue is filled with tension, not from what's said, but from what's not. Mitchum plays Eddie like a man who's been hit too many times and knows there are no more comebacks. His performance is almost tragic in its subtlety, an aging crook trying to buy safety with secrets. The real fear comes not from cops or mobsters, but from realizing that no one, not even yourself, can be trusted. It's a film that makes your skin crawl without raising its voice, a gem buried in bleakness. Wanda. Some films shout their brilliance. Wanda merely breathes. Directed by and starring Barbara Loden, this deeply personal tale follows a woman who walks out of her marriage and into the arms of a criminal, not for love, but because she doesn't know where else to go. In the coal-stained heart of Pennsylvania, Wanda floats like a ghost through diners, motels, and moments that never quite amount to change. What makes Wanda revolutionary isn't its plot, it's its honesty. Loden portrays a woman not searching for freedom or empowerment, but merely a place to disappear. The film has a raw documentary feel, using non-actors and real locations to give every frame a sense of haunting realism. It doesn't paint Wanda as a hero or victim. She's just lost. And for once, the camera doesn't judge. Shot on a shoestring budget, with scenes often improvised or captured in a single take, Wanda feels like cinema stripped down to its bare soul. There's no glamour here, no sweeping soundtrack, just silence, cigarettes, and a woman too tired to pretend. Forgotten for years, it's now recognized as a pioneering voice in feminist cinema. Not for its defiance, but for its brutal honesty about what it means to fade away. Rolling Thunder, 1977. When Major Charles Rane returns home from a Vietnamese prison camp, he's greeted not with gratitude but with polite detachment. He's been broken, pieced together by routine and pain, only to be shattered again when his family is brutally murdered. What follows isn't a conventional revenge story. It's a descent into a kind of poetic numbness, where every act of violence is a hollow echo of everything that's already been lost. William Devane plays Rane with a dead-eyed chill, a man who functions like a machine because it's the only way he knows how to survive. His prosthetic hook becomes a weapon, not just physically, but symbolically, a constant reminder of what's been taken from him. As he sharpens it, we're not sure whether he's preparing for justice or obliteration. John Flynn directs with a quiet intensity, avoiding spectacle in favor of slow-burning dread. And when Rane teams up with a fellow veteran played by Tommy Lee Jones, the film takes on the rhythm of a death march. It's not a celebration of vengeance, it's a requiem. Rolling Thunder is brutal, uncompromising, and unforgettable, a meditation on what happens when the war follows you home. The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat, 1974. If animation had a punk rock album, this would be it. The 9 Lives of Fritz the Cat is a raunchy, chaotic sequel to Ralph Bakshi's original, pushing boundaries that mainstream studios wouldn't dare touch. Fritz is now a washed-up husband, dodging responsibility through wild daydreams that plunge him into alternate dimensions, each more twisted and politically charged than the last. He becomes a Nazi soldier, a Harlem jazz artist, even a cosmonaut, all metaphors for a society spiraling into absurdity. The film doesn't follow a plot so much as a fever dream of nihilism and satire. The animation is deliberately crude, its characters often grotesque, but there's method in the madness. It mocks race, religion, war, capitalism. Nothing is safe, and nothing is sacred. Fritz himself is a self-loathing anti-hero, a reflection of a generation that grew up with revolution and woke up to mortgages and broken ideals. What makes this film memorable is its ability to offend and enlighten in the same breath. You might laugh, you might cringe, but you won't forget it. This is counterculture at its most uncaged, unfiltered, and unapologetic. The Hired Hand, 1971. Peter Fonda's The Hired Hand isn't a Western, it's a ghost story wearing cowboy boots. When drifter Harry Collings returns to the wife and daughter he abandoned 7 years prior, he's not met with open arms. He wants to settle down, to reclaim what he gave up, but time doesn't work that way, and neither does forgiveness. Fonda directs with poetic restraint, letting moments stretch like shadows across the desert. The cinematography is painterly, soaking every frame in golden light and sorrow. Warren Oates, as Harry's loyal companion, brings an aching humanity to a story about men who can no longer outrun their regrets. There's violence, but it's rare, sudden, and always devastating. This isn't a film about gunfights. It's about stillness, about watching a man try to fix something that might be unfixable. The final scenes offer no easy answers, only the quiet understanding that sometimes love comes too late. The Hired Hand is elegiac, tender, and haunting. A Western for those who know the real battles are fought inside. Mikey and Nikki, 1976. Friendship has never felt more dangerous than it does in Mikey and Nikki. Elaine May's searing, overlooked masterpiece locks two lifelong friends into a slow, agonizing night of suspicion, betrayal, and broken brotherhood. John Cassavetes plays Nikki, a low-level gangster hiding out after skimming from the mob. Peter Falk is Mikey, the loyal pal trying to keep him alive, or so we think. Shot mostly at night, in empty streets and shadowy bars, the film feels claustrophobic, like the walls are pressing in. Every conversation between Mikey and Nikki brims with history, inside jokes, long-held grudges, half-forgotten promises. But underneath their banter festers a growing sense of doom. Nikki's paranoia isn't just drug-fueled, it's justified. May lets scenes unfold messily, almost invasively, capturing moments of anger, tenderness, and cruelty that feel painfully real. There's no musical score to guide emotions, just awkward silences, rising panic, and that gut-twisting knowledge that not all betrayals happen in one grand gesture. They happen in small, cowardly moments. Mikey and Nikki isn't just a gangster movie. It's a brutal portrait of friendship dying in slow motion. The Last Wave, 1977. What if the apocalypse wasn't coming from the skies, but rising up from the earth itself? In The Last Wave, Australian director Peter Weir crafts a supernatural thriller where the rain doesn't just fall, it drowns. Richard Chamberlain stars as a Sydney lawyer pulled into a murder case involving Aboriginal tribes. But as he digs deeper, he starts dreaming of floods, disasters, and an ancient prophecy about the world's end. Weir blurs reality until dreams bleed into daylight. The city feels off-kilter, too dark, too quiet, too wet. Every puddle hides a secret. Every crack in the ground feels like an omen. Chamberlain's character isn't just uncovering a crime, he's uncovering a cosmic reckoning he might be helpless to stop. What makes The Last Wave extraordinary is how it uses Aboriginal spirituality not as decoration, but as profound truth. The film suggests that modern life's thin veneer can't hold back forces older than civilization itself. When the climax comes, it isn't a bang. It's a rising terror that feels disturbingly inevitable. Few films capture the dread of impending collapse like this eerie masterpiece. Images, 1972. Before Robert Altman reinvented American cinema with Nashville and McCabe and Mrs. Miller, he crafted one of the most haunting psychological thrillers of the 1970s. Images. Susanna York stars as Catherine, a children's author suffering a mental breakdown in an isolated country house. Or is the house itself feeding her nightmares? Altman fractures reality, blending hallucination with fact until neither Catherine nor the audience can tell them apart. She sees strangers morph into her husband. Dead lovers appear, vanish, reappear. Is she being haunted or hunting herself? Every creak of a door, every gust of wind sounds amplified, like the world is conspiring against her mind. Shot in the misty hills of Ireland, Images feels like a bad dream you can't wake up from. Altman doesn't just show Catherine's madness, he infects you with it. York's brilliant performance, paired with John Williams' chilling score, makes the film a disorienting plunge into the deepest pools of isolation and guilt. It's not just scary, it's suffocating. The Dion Brothers, 1974. Think Bonnie and Clyde, but drunker, funnier, and wearing dirtier boots. The Dion Brothers, also known as The Gravy Train, follows two West Virginia brothers, fed up with dead-end jobs, who plunge into a life of crime with dreams of big scores and fast money. They're not masterminds. They're blue-collar dreamers winging it with more heart than sense. Directed by Jack Starrett and written by Terrence Malick under a pseudonym, the film pulses with chaotic energy. The Dion boys bumble their way through robberies, betrayals, and botched heists, all while arguing over the finer points of life, women, and which bar has the cheapest beer. But beneath the roughhouse humor lies a poignant sadness. These aren't villains. They're victims of a system stacked against them. The chemistry between stars. Stacy Keach and Frederick Forrest is electric. You believe these guys grew up stealing cars and splitting six-packs. They're lovable screw-ups, stumbling toward the American dream with nothing but blind hope and shotguns. The Dion Brothers is criminally underrated, a rollicking crime comedy with a tragic beating heart. Lamora, A Child's Tale of the Supernatural, 1973. Gothic horror doesn't get much stranger or more mesmerizing than Lamora. Set in a shadowy southern town that seems frozen in nightmare, the film follows a young girl named Lila Lee, a preacher's daughter, lured into a dark world of vampires, shapeshifters, and whispered blasphemies. The cinematography is pure fever dream. Abandoned shacks, misty forests, dimly lit chapels. Everything feels slightly unreal, as if the world itself is rotting from within. Leslie Gilb's Lila Lee moves like an innocent Alice through a grotesque wonderland, encountering horrors that seem to hunger, not just for her blood, but for her very soul. What makes Lamora chilling isn't gore, it's the suffocating atmosphere. This is a film where the terror creeps under your skin and whispers to your childhood fears. Director Richard Blackburn infuses the story with disturbing undertones of religious hypocrisy, sexual repression, and corrupted innocence. Lamora isn't just scary, it's hauntingly sad. Once you step into its shadowy world, you may never quite come back the same. Time After Time, 1979. Imagine chasing a serial killer through time itself. In Time After Time, H.G. Wells isn't just the father of science fiction, he's the hero. Malcolm McDowell plays Wells with a perfect blend of idealism and shock as he pursues Jack the Ripper, who has stolen Wells' real-life time machine and escaped to the chaotic streets of 1979 San Francisco. Director Nicholas Meyer masterfully fuses Victorian propriety with late 70s urban grime. Wells, dressed like a polite English gentleman, is forced to confront a future riddled with violence, sexual liberation, and technology far beyond his dreams and nightmares. But what shakes him most isn't the machines. It's the realization that humanity hasn't evolved at all. The movie is part thrilling chase, part aching romance, as Wells falls for a modern woman played by Mary Steenburgen. But looming over every moment is the horrific knowledge that Jack the Ripper might flourish even more in a world of anonymity. Clever, suspenseful, and surprisingly heartfelt, Time After Time turns pulp into poetry. Assault on Precinct 13, 1976. A nearly abandoned police station. A gang determined to destroy it. No escape. Assault on Precinct 13 is John Carpenter's low-budget masterpiece of raw suspense. It's Rio Bravo meets urban apocalypse. As night falls over the crumbling precinct, a ragtag group of cops, criminals, and civilians must band together against an unstoppable, silent horde of street gangs, acting with eerie, almost supernatural menace. Carpenter strips the story down to its essentials. tension, survival, and primal fear. His synth score pounds like a heartbeat as each bullet ricochets and every shadow creeps closer. Dialogue is sparse, characterization is subtle, fear is overwhelming. This isn't just a siege movie, it's a metaphor for societal collapse, where rules dissolve and survival becomes the only law. It's violent, but never mindless. Every shot fired, every door barred, every dying light bulb adds to the slow, suffocating dread. When the final stand comes, it doesn't feel heroic. It feels desperate. And in that desperation, Assault on Precinct 13 achieves brutal, unforgettable greatness. The Last Detail, 1973. Two hardened Navy lifers are ordered to escort a young sailor to military prison, but along the way, they decide to give him the time of his life. That's the bittersweet setup of The Last Detail. A movie that's less about the destination than the desperate freedom found in stolen moments. Jack Nicholson, at his most volcanic and vulnerable, plays Badusky, a man raging against a system he's too beaten down to escape. As he and Otis Young's character take the naive Meadows, Randy Quaid, from bar to bar, brothel to brothel, the film slowly peels away the false bravado to reveal three men crushed by duty, regret, and missed chances. Director Hal Ashby captures America's 1970s malaise perfectly. Cheap motels, cold beers, long walks through frozen cities. Every joke is laced with sadness. Every smile feels like a small rebellion against a world that doesn't care. The Last Detail isn't just about a prisoner. It's about all of us, carrying invisible chains we can never quite shake off. Stalker, 1779. There is a place called the Zone. It grants you your deepest desire, but only if you survive the journey. In Stalker, Andrei Tarkovsky creates a hypnotic, haunting fable about faith, despair, and the terrifying danger of getting what you want. Shot in bleak, decaying industrial ruins, the film follows three men, the stalker, the writer, and the professor, as they venture into the forbidden zone, navigating invisible traps and existential doubts. Dialogue is sparse, but the silence is thunder with meaning. Every abandoned tunnel and flooded room feels alive, breathing dread and broken dreams. Tarkovsky makes you feel the passage of time, the dripping water, the sigh of the wind, until reality itself seems to fray at the edges. Stalker isn't fast. It's slow, agonizingly so. But that slowness pulls you into its spell until you realize you're not just watching a journey, you're taking it. When they finally reach the room where wishes come true, the question isn't whether they'll survive, it's whether they deserve to. Stalker lingers long after the credits roll, like a prayer whispered into a void. The Man Who Would Be King, 1975. Greed, glory, ruin. In The Man Who Would Be King, Sean Connery and Michael Caine play two British adventurers who set off to conquer a forgotten kingdom in the wilds of Kafiristan. And for a time, they succeed. They aren't just soldiers of fortune. They're dreamers, fools, and ultimately tragic heroes. John Huston's epic is no simple adventure story. It's a sweeping Shakespearean tale of hubris and betrayal. Connery and Caine, at the height of their powers, bring humor, charm, and ultimately heartbreaking dignity to their roles as friends undone by ambition. As they climb higher, you know the fall will come. And yet, when it does, it still shatters you. The cinematography is breathtaking. Vast deserts, crumbling temples, endless skies. But it's the emotional landscape that devastates most. Huston strips away the romance of empire, exposing only arrogance and the brutal cost of trying to play gods in a world that demands humility. The final scenes are unforgettable. A frozen crown, a lonely survivor, a broken dream. The Man Who Would Be King reminds us that sometimes the greatest treasures are the ones we dare not take. And there you have it. 15 forgotten masterpieces that didn't just define the 1970s. They carved out their own secret corners in cinematic history. Hidden away behind blockbuster legends, these films dared to be bolder, stranger, and infinitely more human. Which one will you track down first? If these hidden gems blew your mind, smash that like button. Subscribe for more cinematic deep dives, and tell us in the comments which 70s movie you think deserves the spotlight next. Until then, keep watching, keep wondering,